Good morning. I'm Harley Schlanger from the LaRouche Organization with your update for October 18th, 2021. Look, it's absolutely essential that people grasp one central concept. The multiplicity of crises that we're facing right now are the result of a breakdown of civilization, a systemic crisis, as Lyndon LaRouche warned would happen if the world financial system shifted from an American system-based physical economy to a speculative system modeled on the British Empire pre-World War I. And that's exactly what we're facing. And you see it everywhere, and the policies that are being pushed are designed to make you desperate and fearful so that you'll accept the austerity and war policies that are being pushed by the financial oligarchy. Now, the reason it's necessary to come back to this from this standpoint is that if you're not looking at it globally, you're missing the point. This is happening because the enemies of our country are desperate. They are fearful. They're about to lose everything. They nearly lost it in the period from 2017 to 2020, after the 2016 election. They're on the verge of losing it again. And instead of waiting till 2024, we have to intervene with a program now. And the potential is there because everybody is being squeezed except the most wealthy. And unless you're willing to freeze in the dark for the benefit of JP Morgan Chase and the Bank of Nova Scotia and Barclays, then you have an interest in joining with the LaRouche Organization to implement the Hamiltonian policies that Lyndon LaRouche designed to get us out of this crisis. Now, they're pushing hyperinflation through speculation, which means higher prices for all forms of energy. And how do they do this? There's free money for speculators coming from the Federal Reserve and the central banks because they intend to push this policy. That's their intention. And so you have the prices going up on the spot market, not because there's not enough oil or gas, but because the spot market is driving the prices up. Secondly, there's scarcity developing. Why is that? Well, for one thing, in Europe, gas prices are going way up because the policy of the European Union is not to license the gas from the Nord Stream 2 pipeline from Russia. So they're blaming it on Putin when Putin has said he's willing to make as much gas available as they need. Then you also have the Green New Deal intervening by cutting credit to energy production. This is something that's worked out by Mark Carney, former director of the Bank of England, called the Net Zero Banking Alliance, the NZBA, Net Zero Banking Alliance, in which banks have agreed not to lend to producers, but only to put funds into the green bubble, the carbon bubble, and so on. And as a result, the future energy production will drop, even though there's ample resources available. So they're creating artificial scarcity, driving up the prices. And now the Atlanta Federal Reserve branch president said, let's face it, the inflation is not transitory, it's going to be with us. And the normally idiotic Larry Summers said this is the most dangerous situation he's seen during his lifetime in politics. Well, he was one of the advocates of the quantitative easing policy. So this is the pathway to austerity. Some people are saying, well, why do you keep saying that austerity is coming? Well, what happens when your income does not keep up with inflation? When you have scarcity, items not showing up on the shelves of the grocery stores, oil and gas not being delivered, coal prices quadrupling. What happens is you freeze in the dark. Unless you're one of the super wealthy, that's the future that we face under the current regime. And I'm not just talking about Joe Biden, I'm talking about worldwide, where we have the same situation developing in Germany, in France, in Italy, where we have governments falling, a push to bring in neoliberal governments in Eastern Europe. So at the same time, there's a push for geopolitical confrontation with Russia and China. Instead of working together with them, there's a potential war buildup. And if it comes to war, it will be a short fuse to nuclear war. Now, you also have a push to make sure that Afghanistan is a failed state. And what do I mean by this? Well, the Borrell from the European Union, who's in charge of their policies, said the EU will provide humanitarian aid, that is, emergency aid. The US is saying we'll drop dollars to people who need it in Afghanistan, but no aid for development. What Afghanistan needs is development. And Pino Arlaki, who is one of the most important representatives who was involved with Afghanistan from 1999 to 2001, stated at a Schiller Institute conference in Copenhagen the other day that the Taliban, in conjunction with him, had reduced opium production by 90% as of 2001, and then it shot up again after the invasion with the beginning of the endless wars. Now, the Taliban has agreed that they'll stop the production, but they can't do it if their people are starving, and that's the only source of income. So we've also seen in the last days 2 incidents of a revival of Islamic terrorism in Europe, one in Norway and the other one was in England, where a member of parliament was stabbed to death in a church. This is the future if Afghanistan fails. It will again become a center for a safe haven for terrorism and a center for international drug trafficking. Who benefits from that? The international oligarchy, the same people creating energy shortages and the hyperinflationary policy. So we had a conference in Copenhagen, which included representatives of all the neighbors, Pakistan, Iran, China. Countries came together, as well as representatives from Afghanistan, to discuss LaRouche's proposal for the U.S. to join with Russia and China and Pakistan to carry out economic development projects. So the Afghan people are not merely depending on handouts to survive, but actually begin to develop their own economy. This was a very powerful summit. And the website, the LaRouche organization, and actually the Schiller Institute website will have the full video, the 4-hour event, but we'll be also putting out a press release on this so you can find out that we are in the middle of pulling together the kinds of alliances that Lyndon LaRouche has talked about for years. A Russia-China-US policy of development, of collaboration, because these are the 3 nations that could do it. If we did it, if we had an agreement for this, including to develop Afghanistan, which would include Pakistan, Iran, and other countries in the region, Europe would be forced to join, because otherwise there will be another flood of refugees heading into Europe. So the question then is, the other part of this is the COP26 conference, which could fall apart. We could break it apart. The effort to establish the imposition of fascist economic policies and energy policies led by Prince Charles and Mark Carney, the former director of the Bank of England, is potentially on the verge of collapse. So here's what you have to do. Go to our website, download the pamphlets that we've produced recently, including one on There Is No Climate Crisis, one on the 1.5 billion jobs needed worldwide, and the most recent one on the American Reconstruction on the New Silk Road. These are pamphlets which are available for mass circulation. You can order them to distribute to your friends. You can download it to print and distribute. Now, keep in mind that a time of crisis, profound crisis, 1783, after winning the Revolutionary War, the United States was broke. It had a huge debt. It still had not been able to develop a manufacturing sector because the British had not allowed it. And what happened? Alexander Hamilton, over a period of 4 years, organized a constitutional convention with Madison, with a few others, and they established the principles of American system physical economy that were implemented during the first George Washington administration. These are the principles which are embedded in Lyndon LaRouche's idea of the 4 laws. LaRouche's idea of the 4 powers, the US, Russia, China, and India, intervening for global development projects based on the 4 laws. Banking separation, which outlaws speculation. If that doesn't outlaw it, if you want to speculate, you can do it, but if you lose, you don't get bailed out. Hamiltonian credit, a national credit institution that provides credit to producers, not to speculators. Infrastructure, massive development of new platforms of infrastructure that cheapen the cost of everything. And then the 4th law is investment in the frontier technologies, including space and nuclear fusion. This is the way you defeat the international oligarchy. This is how you send the Davos crowd into hiding. This is how you take the power away from the Federal Reserve, from the central banks, and put it back into the hands of representatives of the people operating through legislative institutions. This is something that can be done now because the crisis is maturing. It's affecting everyone. The signs of it are everywhere. So don't wait. Don't complain. Join us immediately. Go sign up at the LaRouche organization to become a member of our organization, to get our daily updates, and make sure you circulate them so that your friends and neighbors are brought into this mobilization. Thanks for joining me today. I'll see you again tomorrow.